Hello TIs and cherished viewers all over the world. Welcome to the controversial talk show brought to you by TI's Inside TV team, Couch Controversy. We know you have all been hearing the words couch controversy and Mr. Atseku floating around the campus. We also know you have been dying to know what exactly it is, but don't worry, stay glued to your seats and watch the show as your curiosity is thoroughly sated. On Couch Controversy, by popular request, our first guest turns out to be a very special person to TI's community. He is a man who can come up with the most insightful quotes and advice for any situation on the spot. He's an extremely talented orator. He's a coach of many different sports. Ladies and gentlemen, help us welcome our very own head of hostel, Mr. Gabriel Atseku.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Atseku, we're going to start off with getting to know you a little bit more. So, first of all, what do you do during your spare time?
I like reading a lot. I read and I like watching, of course, sporting events. Those are the two major things I do during my spare time.
Okay. So what would you say have been the toughest moments in your life and how did you get through them?
Yeah, I think that the period I had for my first degree was perhaps the toughest moment because there were a lot of things I had to struggle with. I lost my dad when I was young, so I had to stay with my uncle and I had to learn a couple of tough things on my own and by myself. So that period was perhaps the difficult period in my life.
Okay. So as you know, TIS is a secondary school and there are lots of students currently navigating it and dealing with issues. So we would like for you to describe your secondary school experience, especially in terms of girls.
My secondary school experience was good. Fortunately, I was what we call in the secondary school assistant school prefect. So of course we could not behave as perhaps other students would. You cannot joke around or in quote do things that perhaps will ruin your position as the assistant school prefect. So of course not much into association with other girls on campus because that would of course send a number of signals to the student body. So I was close to just a few of them.
Okay. So you said earlier that in your free time you enjoy watching sports, right? So what would you say is your favorite football team?
Currently, I don't have a favorite football team. I used to be a supporter of Man United. But having come to learn a number of things, I'm beginning to question my own commitment to these football teams. Because at a point in time, even the owners of the clubs, do sell the clubs. The players, get lucrative contracts in other clubs, and then they join the club. So I question why myself, a supporter in Africa who doesn't perhaps benefit much, support one team for a long period of time. So currently I support a number of teams, not specifically one.
Okay, so this brings us to TIS. So how do you feel about the staff versus student street soccer games?
Yeah, I believe that I took part in 3 of the staff versus student
really?
games. Yeah, even though other colleagues took part in more, I believe that it gave us the opportunity to work together, to have fun together. It was interesting that the students enjoyed it, even though the amount of hours we needed was not enough because by 9 p.m. we had to get back to the hostel. But I believe that it gave us the opportunity to bond off hostel activities and to have some fun.
Okay, so while we're on the subject of football in TIS, who in IB2 do you think could be a football captain?
There are a number of them. It's difficult because each player has his own unique abilities and skills. Somebody could be good as a defender, somebody as an attacker, and somebody perhaps as a midfield player or something. But I believe that currently the sports executive, Liman Sise. I believe that he does well with and perhaps deserves to be the captain of the team.
Okay, that's good to know. So now we're moving away from the subject of sports and we're moving more towards your role as a hostel guardian. So let's first start off with what made you want to become a hostel guardian?
Yeah, I believe that as a teacher, in line of duty, you may be assigned other responsibilities. One of the best sacrifices you can have on earth is to work for human beings. So when the general manager muted the idea to me, of course, I accepted, knowing that I had to contribute my quota to the development of the young boys and girls that we are raising at TIS.
Okay, so as a hostel guardian, you're always working with students, right? So how do you feel about the students' behavior towards you?
Yeah, it's interesting because certainly we are different human beings with different attitudes and all that. So it is a good thing to get to know everybody, to understand everybody. That way you can be able to interact better with the person. However, sometimes it is interesting and overwhelming, especially when both of you seem to get along well over an issue or something. So it's okay.
Okay, so as a hostel guardian, you always find yourself in situations where you have to give students advice when they are facing problems. So, and you are known all over the school for your special proverbs and sayings. So where do you get these quotes and proverbs from? And do you think they apply to you?
Of course. The first thing is that one of the means through which we communicate in Africa and Ghana is through proverbs. As a young child, I normally attend family gatherings, and my former head of family, may he so rest in peace, Mr. Emmanuel K. Clement, normally before a family gathering starts, he will give a number of those proverbs, as a means of sending a message across, encouraging or advising us. So that was how my interest in those quotes and proverbs started.
Okay. Can you please give the viewers a few examples of your famous proverbs and quotes?
A boil on one's neck is of much interest to that individual than 40 earthquakes in Africa. In the study of human performance, the size of your head will certainly not determine the outcome of the competition.
That's very insightful. Okay, so as a hostel parent, people would like to know, what's your relationship with Dr. Ken? A lot of students have said, and I quote, you can almost pass as besties. Please elaborate on your relationship with Dr. Ken.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because in order to work with Dr. Ken, I believe that you have to be your very best. You have to be hardworking, and most importantly, you have to be honest, which of course reflects one of our core values as a school.
Yes.
It requires a lot of preparations, pre-planning, reporting things on time and all that. So we've worked closely together. I've also realized that he has a lot of experience as an administrator. And in sports management, his love for sports. So when you have such a person as your leader, then the best you can do is to learn from the person. Generally, if you have somebody who has a lot of experience, you want to tap into the person's experience and then get to learn. So since joining TIS, we've had a very good working relationships because I understand that there are standards that must be met. And sometimes I know his standards are very high.
Yes.
So if you want to work with him, then you need to have high standards as well.
Okay. So what do you like the most about being a hostel parent, and what's your biggest challenge?
I think knowing that I'm part of the team that is helping train young ones. As a school, we are rendering a service, and the service we are rendering is education. We are educating young ones. But it is not only in the classroom. Outside of the classroom, we render services to our students. So the hostel parenting is one of that, and I'm happy that I'm part of the team that is helping train these young ones. Not a challenge though, I would say it's a concern. My concern, having worked in a hostel for some time, is that generally if there is no hostel parent around, students seem to have a free day or may not want to do what they are supposed to do.
Yes.
That for me is a concern. I'm looking forward to the day where no hostel parent, let's say in the morning, will go around and students will wake up by themselves, do their chores and all that, and leave the hostel on time. So that is a concern for me.
Okay, so this is a very controversial topic in TIS, and as a hostel guardian, we would like to know your take on it. So what is your opinion on the girls' dress code?
I believe that dress code, or in quote, the way we dress, which we call fashion, evolves with time. There are standards, of course, that we have to meet in terms of our dressing in school, at home, in the church, the workplace, everywhere. Whichever one we choose to go with, we have to ensure that we dress appropriately. And dressing appropriately must go with the standards by the environment. So in this case, for example, the school. The school can set the standards for us, but of course it is always open to discussion and suggestions. Of course, if the suggestion is good as to changing a dress code, why not? I'm sure the school will go with that.
Okay, well, TIS is a co-ed school, and as you said, schools have certain standards, right? So we'd like to know why the dress code for boys is not as strict as the dress code for girls.
Yeah, I think that is a very good question, but I think generally when we talk about indecent dressing, and I say generally in society, mostly it tends to go with the girls than the boys, generally. So perhaps that could be a reason, but I'm sure perhaps through your observations you might also see that perhaps it is an issue that goes well for girls than boys.
Well, by saying that, do you not think that you are sort of instilling a victim mentality, where if something were to happen in society right now, the girl will be blamed because of, for example, what she's wearing, as opposed to the boy doing what he did?
I will explain by giving you this example. It's like playing a football match and you are the referee. When the referee takes a decision that goes in your favor, you tend to get happy. If the decision goes against you, you say that the referee is biased. So that is how I'll respond to that. So I'm sure that if the argument goes in favor of the girls, I'm sure they will be happy. But once it goes against them, then perhaps they will not be happy. So that is also not bad.
Okay. So a lot of students also wanted to know that, do you not think sometimes your actions are a bit extreme?
Extreme, and can you give examples of what?
Example.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the boys' hostel, there was a situation where you ran to the gate to catch boys who were late.
Well, I don't think that they are harsh or they are whatever. You see, we are running a system, and we run the system with time, where we have to do things on time. So if for a reason there's a need for us to do that once a while in order to drum home the message of getting things done on time, then we have to. And as you may know, TIS is well rooted for doing things on time. And so we have to instill these values in our students.
Okay. So what comes to your mind when you see a girl and a boy working together during or after entertainment?
Well, it depends on perhaps the location. Depends on where they are working to. And but generally, I think that, like you said, this school for both boys and girls. So certainly, boys have the right to work with girls and have normal conversations. So it may not be necessary for me to judge. But I think those involved in the conversation may be, the best judges of whatever they are talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly, because once you don't hear what they are talking about, it's difficult to have a take on that. So.
Okay, so how do you, as a person, think that TIS has changed you socially and financially?
Yeah, I think that my attitude towards work has changed since I got to TIS. Of course, I joined from the government school, and so in TIS I've learned to work hard. I've learned to do things on time. I've learned to set high standards and all that. So socially, I've learned to work with others across departments to ensure that things are done. So the experience has been good so far.
Okay, so as a hostel guardian, you work closely with students, right? So we would like to know your take on the Rastafarian who was admitted into the Chimota Secondary School. Yes.
I think I was explaining earlier on that naturally every society or every group of people have their own rules, values, and all that. Even as nations or countries, we have our own value systems, and those things define a number of things. And so, if perhaps that is, one of the values or rules of the school, but as an individual, I do understand that we cannot have all the rights we want at every stage of our lives. At certain points in life, some of those rights, may be curtailed. Now, for example, you are a student, you are supposed to wear a uniform from Monday to Thursday, and then Friday you will be in your Friday wear.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the rule that is being set by the environment in which you find yourself. So, of course, these issues also have implications on human rights, but we should ensure that we understand that all of us have rights. The individual has rights, the school also has rights. So when we are open-minded about these things, then we can understand that at a point we may have to forfeit some of our rights for the sake of our education or something.
Okay, but from the perspective, in your personal opinion, should TIS as an IB school, which is supposed to be open-minded and accepting of everyone, reject such a person because of their own religion?
My understanding of open-minded means that much as you think you are right, you can also be wrong. So what is right and what is wrong is relative when you put it into context. So if the values and the rules of TIS that is not accepted, then that is how we should go. If the rules of TIS admit that it should be accepted, then why not? Okay. So let's move on to lighter topics. So we would like to know that if you were to take on the role as a student, which teacher in TIS class would you like to be in, to spend a day in? I think that naturally I started learning French when I was young. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to continue with that. So I want to be in the French class. As a student too, I struggled with math. So perhaps I want to be in those classes in order to perhaps learn what I was unable to learn during my secondary school days.
That's really interesting. Okay, so who do you think is currently the best athlete in the school?
Athlete in terms of?
In general, overall best.
Overall best, I think that for boys, or for the boys category, I think Liman Cisse does a number of things. He plays soccer, he plays handball, he plays volleyball, and a number of things. So I think for the boys, I'll go for Liman Cisse. For the girls too, I think Seyram Awo does a number of things. She swims, she plays soccer, she plays handball, she plays volleyball. So perhaps
she will be there.
Yes.
Okay, so we know that the Francis versus Anthony match is coming up soon, and you as the hostel guardian, in your own unbiased opinion, who do you think is going to win?
I think that is a difficult one, but I'll answer you as a hostel parent for Francis and coordinator for boys hostel.
Okay.
So certainly, as a hostel parent for Francis, we won the maiden event, and so certainly last year we just decided that for the sake of Anthony brothers, in order that they don't feel bad, we allowed them to win the, so of course I know that Francis boys are going to win the competition. However, as one of the leaders at the hostel, I believe that there's an opportunity for students to demonstrate their techniques, have fun, and play a good football match. So I'm sure it's going to be very entertaining.
Okay. So we have come to the end of this interview. But before we leave, Mr. Atseku, we would like you to give us one more proverb for any student that might be struggling with anything out there right now.
Could you be specific?
On this situation, well, anyone who is facing any problems in their life right now, anything to help uplift their spirits.
Yeah. You cannot kill yourself because you cannot do something. Life always gives us the opportunity to learn. So the fact that you cannot do something today doesn't mean that you should go and kill yourself. I recall as a handball player in UCC, my coach will always say you cannot kill yourself because of one goal. If you are not able to score a goal, you have other opportunities to score in the game. So you can certainly not kill yourself because you cannot do something now. Give yourself time, and practice more, and then you should be fine.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Atseku, for your insightful answers to our questions. And thank you, viewers, for joining us today to watch this insights video. You can look forward to another video next week on Friday. Thank you for tuning in.